Good evening, everybody. President Obama claims he is turning the page, but he's been outmaneuvered by the Republican-led Congress, who've already turned a very important page and who appear ready to lead where the president has not. Republicans moving on a host of issues ranging from illegal immigration and border security to foreign policy and support of our middle class. We'll be taking up these issues with some of the country's foremost thinkers and leaders. Our guests here tonight include House Judiciary Committee Chairman Congressman Bob Goodlatte and House Foreign Affairs and Intelligence Committee member Congresswoman Eliana Ross-Lehtinen. Also here tonight, former senior advisor to President George W. Bush and Republican strategist Karl Rove, and former Reagan White House political director and Republican strategist Ed Rollins. We begin with Iran and the threat that House Speaker John Boehner says the White House is ignoring. The administration in the midst of seemingly endless nuclear negotiations with Iran, and they continue to loosen economic sanctions with no conditions attached. The White House today releasing another $500 million, returning that money to Iran simply to compensate them for continuing to talk. Boehner invited Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to deliver a speech to a joint session of Congress on the Iranian threat, an invitation that Netanyahu has accepted. His speech will take place on February 11th. It is a direct rebuke of the president's threat to veto a bipartisan bill calling for more sanctions against Iran. The speaker making it clear today that if the president is unwilling to take Iran's threat seriously, the new Republican-led Congress will, and that he doesn't require the president's permission to bring Mr. Netanyahu to Capitol Hill.
I did not consult with the White House. The Congress can make this decision on its own. I don't believe I'm poking anyone in the eye. There is a serious threat that exists in the world. And the president last night kind of papered over it. And the fact is that there needs to be a more serious conversation in America about how serious the threat is.
Republicans also turning the page today on the issue of illegal immigration and border security. The House Homeland Security Committee marking up a bill that would give the Department of Homeland Security 2 years in which to gain operational control of high traffic areas along our southern border with Mexico. 5 years to succeed in that objective for the entire border. The bill, introduced by committee chairman Congressman Mike McCall, requires more infrastructure with which to secure the border, including 27 miles of new border fencing. There will also be aerial surveillance, the option of using Defense Department equipment to prevent illegal crossings of our border. If DHS officials fail to meet any of the bill's standards, they would face significant penalties, including an end to all bonuses and salary increases. Joining us now, a member of the House Republican leadership who's led the way on an incremental approach to immigration legislation. We're joined by Congressman Bob Goodlatte, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. And Mr. Chairman, good to have you with us.
Thank you, Lou.
I'd like to go just through a few chronological issues here. The invitation to Netanyahu is a stirring moment of maneuver on the part of the speaker, and the White House obviously left dumbfounded, slack-jawed, and flat-footed as a result. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, you look at this President's State of the Union address yesterday and you say, there he goes again. This speech was chock full of things that the American people didn't vote for in November: mistrust, overregulation of the economy, putting a burden on American families, taking away the college savings tax benefits that millions of American families rely upon to send their children to college. And in the midst of all that, he issues 4 veto threats when he's supposedly coming to the Congress to talk about working with the Congress for the benefit of the American people. They don't buy it. We didn't buy it. The Speaker didn't buy it. And so I think that the invitation, which I'm so pleased Prime Minister Netanyahu has accepted, is a strong signal that the Congress is going to watch this circumstance with a hawk, and that we are going to take measures necessary to do our duty to protect the people of this country from a country like Iran getting nuclear weapons. And we're not going to simply rely on what the president tells us when he stands there and says, I'll veto anything you try to do to put Iran in check. It's legislation passed by the Congress that has imposed the sanctions that they already have, that have brought us to the limited point where we are now, and we need to push this president to take us a lot further to assure us that Iran is not going to get nuclear weapons.
Pushing the president further and assuring border security is the Mike McCall legislation, the McCall bill, the Secure Our Borders First bill, moving today. Do you believe that it can win significant support, significant defined as veto-proof support?
Well, I don't know about veto-proof support, but I do know that it's going to get strong conservative support. I and my staff on the House Judiciary Committee and other Judiciary Committee members, some of whom serve also on the Homeland Security Committee, have worked very closely with him to make sure that we have a very strong bill, and I think he's done just that. They're working it through the committee right now, and I think this is very important to send a strong message. Again, we have a president who could enforce the law right now. He's not doing that, so there's a tremendous amount of mistrust here, but we need to send the signal of how it should be done right, and this is, I think, a very good first step. The Judiciary Committee will follow right behind with the interior enforcement legislation giving state and local governments a clear statutory role in helping to enforce our immigration laws, and electronic verification of employment to make sure that every business in America is checking to verify that the person applying for a job is indeed lawfully present in the United States and therefore entitled to a job. That's, I think, the next steps in this process for a step-by-step reform of our laws that need to be reformed. But the first thing we need is for the president to enforce the laws now, and instead he's going in the opposite direction by granting administrative amnesty to 4 to 5 million people. That's a separate battle, but it's one that we have to put right at the forefront as well.
Let's examine those two issues. One is the legislation that you already moved from your committee, as you say, focusing on interior enforcement, E-Verify. The legislation, the incremental approach that you have taken on resolving our illegal immigration crisis in this country is incremental, it is rational, and it's effective. Is the leadership, that is Speaker Boehner and the Republican leadership of the House, are they enthusiastically endorsing what you're doing here to the point that they are prepared to lead with a Republican version now of the good lot legislation and make a real difference and hopefully resolve the country's crisis that has been extant now for over a decade?
I believe there's strong support from our leadership and virtually the entire Republican conference in the House to do the kinds of enforcement measures that need to be put in place. But again, what we really need is a president of the United States who's going to enforce the law, not flout the law, which is what President Obama is doing. But these will show the American people that there's a right way to do this, and I think we should push ahead with this approach.
And at this point, you're going to move ahead. What is your next step?
Well, our next step in the Judiciary Committee will be to look at bills that we brought up in the last Congress. You'll recall that we passed 4 bills through the House Judiciary Committee, all of them good bills, and look to see what improvements can be made to them, and then start moving those bills out of the committee. The difference I hope we'll see this time is that, not fearing a comprehensive immigration reform bill of Barack Obama and Harry Reid and others in the United States Senate, but with a new Senate, we should also pass those bills through the House of Representatives to show the American people
that this
does have strong support.
How soon do you think you can get them passed by the full House?
I don't have a timetable yet, but I would hope early in this first year of this Congress.
Congressman, always good to talk with you. Congressman Bob Goodlatte, Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. Thanks.
Thanks, Lou.